It seems like there's so much confusion, despair, even darkness in the world today, that hope is slowly fading, and there's really nothing anybody can do to do anything about it, to make a difference. Well, I have a story I'd like to share with you that may just prove otherwise. So before we get to my story, I think it's important that every one of us just steps away from all the noise, social media, the news, just to step away, even if just for an hour a day. Take a hike, go for a walk. That's what I do every day after work, try to anyway. Meditate, call a loved one up on the phone and actually talk, not text, but talk. So my story, yesterday at lunchtime, I had to run to the UPS store, I had to return a package. So I get to the store, get out, go inside, do what I need to do, get my tracking number. I'm coming out the door and I noticed this older lady walking across the parking lot. She had a couple packages in her arms, but her hands were full. So she got closer and I just went ahead and I held the door open for her. She came up to me and gave me a smile. And she said, "Such a nice thing to do." Really don't see that much more these days. I smiled at her and I said, "Well, ma'am, I'm just being kind. The world needs a little bit more of that these days." And she said, "You're absolutely right." She walked inside, made my way back to the car, and happened to look up, and she's coming back out of the store, and she's making her way towards my car. So I wind the window down. She came up to me and she said, "I just want to say thank you again for such a kind gesture." And I said, "Well, you're welcome, ma'am." And she said, "You really don't realize how much this means to me, how much it brightens my day." I said, "Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I could do that for you." And she said, "You have no idea how much I've been through these last few weeks. My husband died suddenly 3 weeks ago, and it's just been very difficult. We were married for 43 years, and it's just so lonely. He's not here with me anymore. And yesterday, these two packages arrived at my house. They were something that he had ordered before he passed for a hobby that he enjoys doing. And I just didn't know what to do with these packages. Should I keep them? Should I send them back? So she said she decided to bring them back, and that's why she was at the UPS store. And she said she was having such a terrible time driving to the store. They're going to turn in those two packages that her husband had just ordered a few weeks before. And she looked at me and smiled again, and she said, "Your kindness made such a difference today. In making her day brighter, she made my day brighter." Just genuine kindness for each other. So I started on the way back to work, and I was taking my time because I really didn't want to go back to work. And I got to thinking, it really reminded me of a story that my grandfather had written in a book that he had published. He wrote several books, just small books. He had them all published. was mostly stories from his childhood, him growing up on the farm, and even his adult years. And in those books, he imparted a lot of wisdom. So that's something I'd like to share with you. I think what we'll do is we'll walk down to the river and I will read that to you down there. So the title of this story is Light That Others Might See. Now you have to remember, Pop grew up in the late 1890s and the early 1900s. And his story kind of depicts that the time that he was growing up. Lanterns furnished about the only safe, portable light for those who had to see to work in the dark when I was growing up on the farm. Flashlights were coming into use, and nearly every farm family had one or more, but they were unreliable. With the shining new marvel of light, one could begin a short journey with brilliance and come home in total darkness. Globes might burn out, or batteries might weaken and die. But the early flashlights were novelties for farm boys who rarely saw lights brighter than the smoking oil lamps that sat in the center of the kitchen table. Lanterns were the old dependables around the farm. They gave a dim, yellow light in a circle that always cast a long shadow of the one who carried it, and those who walked on either side of the carrier. In those days, lanterns were the safest lights to take about the barn, although they were also the cause of many barn fires that were disastrous to farmers. There were usually many unfinished tasks or chores to be done around the farm after darkness came, and light was indispensable. While I was still a small boy, my father took me with him to hold the lantern while he worked. The task was so easy, it was tiresome, for it often lasted late into the night, and I grew sleepy. In winter, it was uncomfortably cold, just to stand and hold the lantern. With my thoughts roaming from the cold task I was doing to the warmth of the kitchen and playing with my sister, I was likely to hold the lantern too high or too low, or to just hold it. Then I would soon hear my father say, "Hold the lantern up, I can't see." I would hold it up then, but soon he would be telling me again, "I can't see." One night, after he had reminded me several times to hold the lantern up, he told me, not unkindly, but with a little impatience, "Always hold a light so you can see what I'm doing, and then I can see." I've never forgotten his words about holding lights for others. In my mature years, I have often thought that maybe our lives are meant to be the lights for others. Are we holding them that they might see? Now I realize that one act of kindness towards a stranger is not going to change the world, but it can make a difference in somebody's life. It can brighten their day. It brightened hers, and her kindness, it brightened mine. And maybe, just maybe, we all practice a little kindness each and every day to someone we know, a loved one, even a stranger. Maybe we can make a difference. Maybe we can begin to start changing the world. A world that we'd like to see, a better world. Now, making this video, it reminded me of another story of my grandfather that kind of really goes along with what happened yesterday. And that's something I'd like to share with you in my next video. So until then, take care, be kind, and I appreciate you all.